about the astrology. That's what's really important. So today is March 31st. It is the first quarter moon. First quarter moon means that we had that new moon in Aries last week. And as the moon comes around through the signs, when it moves into 11 degrees of uh, Cancer here, and it will be conjunct, not as closely. It'll be within a 10-degree orb of the North Node. It will square the sun. And when the moon squares the sun, we call that the first quarter moon, and it's a conflict. So any squares in astrology is a conflict, and we have this conflict between whatever like intention, mindset we were in the new moon. The first quarter moon in Cancer brings along conflict around nurturing the self, uh, maybe self protection, because Cancer is very self protective. Um, our emotional needs, because the moon is our emotional needs for that protection, for that nurturing. And the moon rules Cancer, so it's very strong, especially for those people who have a lot of water in their chart, especially a lot of Cancer in their chart. They typically feel the Cancer moon time frame stronger than the rest of us. So when the moon is squaring the sun, which is in very um, strong, it's exalted in Aries, the sun is, and so it's fire, the fire of the sun in this very fiery Mars ruled sign, which is about action and moving forward and courage. When we have that, this moon is kind of holding us back a little bit. This moon might be having a harder time communicating effectively what it needs. So this is really the time to dive into self-care and to look at journaling and really staying close to home, which most of us are doing anyway, but this is a day to really kind of sink into that and be okay with that. When the moon is conjunct the North Node, as it happens every month, um, when it's conjunct that North Node, we're just getting that little extra push towards where collectively we're supposed to be. When the North Node, it's in Cancer until May 5th, and then the North Node moves clockwise, whereas everything else moves counterclockwise in the chart unless it's retrograde. It moves clockwise into Gemini in May 5th. So we have the nodes changing signs very shortly, and I'll make a whole other video on that because it's an 18-month cycle. It's really important to pay attention to because it's collectively, if you look at the collective, it's where we're being kind of directed to go to and to really kind of be courageous about. So when we have our emotional security, the moon conjunct that North Node, it's saying our emotions will lead us to where we need to go if we stop and listen. However, this can also be temper tantrums today. So getting into fights, conflicts, that kind of thing, because when the sun is square the moon, Aries is very fiery and the moon is very needy in Cancer. And so if you're not getting your needs met, there could be a lot of conflict. I'm actually later today, I'm going to do a live on my Facebook for couples because it's a very intense time for couples, and that will be even more so as we move closer to the moon being in Libra, which brings us the full moon in Libra is the sign of partnership. So this lunar cycle, as every lunar cycle that is at the start of spring, the start of summer, the start of fall, and the start of winter, they're always in the cardinal signs. We are starting a fresh new cycle. And so because of that, this newer energy can be a little bit unfamiliar. It can feel really strong. We might be tempted to start in on something right away. And we're supposed to listen to those urges. We're supposed to listen to where we're being directed for the whole spring, for the whole next few seasons. I often say that the springtime is like the seed first sprout. And so we really want to pay attention to how to nurture that plant, how to give it enough water and sunlight and all those things so that it can flourish and create fruit in the summer. The other interesting thing, so that's all like this lunar cycle, very important lunar cycle. And then with up here, freshly into Aquarius, we have a conjunction between Saturn and Mars. So they're both in 0 degrees of Aquarius. And Aquarius is an air sign. It's a fixed air sign, very stubborn. And this is where we can see a lot of conflicts as well today, because um, Aquarius energy does like to do things their own way. And Mars is our action. I was saying Mars rules Aries. And so we have a lot of that pressing, like kind of pushy energy active today. And so Mars in Aquarius is very much about intellect and maybe trying to show your side of the story and prove yourself to someone else, or maybe trying to um, really get too into topics that aren't really for your best mental health state. And then the conjunction with Saturn is the cold, harsh, strict disciplinary. And so that being in Aquarius right now, I did a whole other video on Saturn in Aquarius. It's a 2.5-year cycle. It's intense, it's long, but there's likely to be some things in the news today, likely to be something happening in the world today that really draws our attention to this social distancing, the social isolation that a lot of people are doing. And because we still have all this Capricorn energy, we have Jupiter. Jupiter and Pluto will also, so Pluto's at 24 and Jupiter's at 24, even though it doesn't look like they're exactly conjunct each other, they are too. So within a 10-degree orb, we have both Mars and Saturn conjunct each other, and Jupiter and Pluto, along with Pallas Athena, conjunct each other. And so because of that, it's a lot about systems. The difference between Capricorn is like the government or large corporations. It's that kind of that connection between corporate power and government power, and how sometimes they merge, and that's not necessarily a great thing because it's all around capitalism and money more so than the people. So we have Jupiter expanding on that theme of Pluto unearthing uncomfortable information in our collective society and our government and our corporations. So we have that, right? And also just like showing us how the system isn't working. And then we also have the conjunction between Mars and Saturn, which is about Aquarius is a lot about free thinking and doing things differently, and future goals, and how we want to do things differently, and how we want to have a freer society or free thinking society. And that's very much Aquarius. Saturn is going to make it happen. And sometimes the way it makes it happen is by showing us all the things that aren't working, and really exposing more truths, because Aquarius is the water bearer. If you remember, it's the archetype of pouring the water down for the people, and that water is like the truth serum. And so truths will be shown in a way that's uncomfortable, and sometimes that has to happen. I mean, a lot of times that has to happen in order for change to take place. So trusting the process here is really important, even though it's very uncomfortable and can be very personal. Aquarius traditionally is ruled by Saturn, and modern astrology has it ruled by Uranus. And it's interesting because you can see both. And I was saying recently to someone, I can see a lot of Aquarians being like, no, like the social distancing is good. We need to do that. And then I see a lot of people who have their chart ruled by Uranus having a harder time. So Uranus looks like this, and it is down here in Taurus, which is getting, trined by all this stuff. Was a lot earlier, but the South Node is right there too, creating this contact. So if someone has Uranus strongly in their chart, they're going to have a harder time listening to the things that are coming through the news, the ways that they're supposed to be kind of monitoring themselves and controlling themselves. Typically I've seen, and that's how you can see like Saturn as the traditional ruler of Aquarius, is because a lot of Aquarians are like, no, yeah, this needs to happen. And Saturn's very much like the discipline that needs to happen. And then the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, which is much more about free thinking, sudden changes, sudden shifts, the shake up, that kind of thing. So this is all really important when we think of what's happening both individually and collectively right now, because Uranus is the newer ruler of Aquarius, but the traditional ruler is Saturn. So we have Saturn co-ruled in traditional astrology by co-ruler of uh, Capricorn and Aquarius. So we're getting literally, if you think of it in traditional astrology we're getting a double dose of, so basically 5 years of Saturn being in the signs that it rules. And because of that, the weight's going to feel heavier. And this is also mirrored by the fact that Pluto is in Capricorn until 2026, I think. And when it moved in, I talked about this in another video. I have a lot of other videos about this, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But when Pluto came into Capricorn, that was the 2008 recession that we had. So it won't move out of Capricorn until 2026. And so we definitely have a new structure coming in, and the old system is falling away. And a lot of this has to do with our money, and being aware of the changes that are happening with the money, and noticing kind of if there's a redistribution, oh my gosh, redistribution of the money and the wealth, or if it's to gain more power and control by the elite. And because we have it in Capricorn, we will see truths being unfolded around that greed and that those kinds of things. So as far as today goes, though, definitely a good day to stay home, definitely a good day to not get into it with people, and to really self-nurture, meditate, to go into the things that you know are going to be good for you, because there is a lot of that. The two malefics in traditional astrology, Mars and Saturn, have just moved in, and we're in both critical degrees of the last degree and into the going into the first degree of Aquarius. And so when they're in that critical degree, we're going to feel them stronger until it moves off of that. So definitely take good care of yourself, and really notice where you need to have more free thinking in your own mind, and more care for your physical body, because Mars has to do with our physical body and our emotional needs with the moon in Cancer. Thank you guys for listening. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one reading with me or an intuitive healing session with me, you can do that, and I will try. I think I can add in my link below this to book with me. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.